Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. We have end of year funk hitting all of us. We have Manco members that are not able to be here tonight due to work constraints and one that's ill. So we really minimized team tonight. Andriette van Zyl, who was up after Liesel, also apologizes. She's still stuck in Joburg and will only be landing tonight. And both my Manco members who were supposed to do ward committee feedback are also both not here. So Liesel is the star of the show. She has the floor. And apologies from the councillors just before I forget, from Nikki Weber, Joy McCarthy. I hope we enjoy tonight. Liesel, thank you very much for being here, and I know you have lots to impart and lots of knowledge to impart.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, and yeah, really awesome to be here, and to everybody at home listening. Just a little bit of background on myself. It's been about 7 years now that I've been traveling across South Africa speaking at schools specifically about bullying. I think it's something really, really close to my heart. Due to personal experiences that I've had, and I think my counselling, my sports psychology qualifications kind of helped me quite a bit, but my strength sport has actually given me the opportunity, the platform to reach into the schools, and my message to kids always is it's the strong that lift others, and it's the weak that push kids down. And I think that's something that a lot of parents and children don't get, and teachers, because a kid that bullies has an issue. You know, we tend to label the kid and say, you the problem. That kid already has a problem, and now we're making it a bigger issue. And I'm not sugarcoating bullies and say let's put little pink ribbons around them, but these kids are the way they are for a reason. The bully is always a victim first, and they either choose to now protect themselves through attacking first, or becoming this, you know, I'm a superhero, I'll hurt you, you know, you can't touch me kind of attitude. So there's a lot of misconceptions about the bullies. I have a passion for the bullies. I've spoken and dealt with and counseled some of them face to face, one-on-one, and really just I always speak without a mask, and I think the kids kind of get that, and I always say to them, take your mask off, tell me what the problem is, and let's deal with it. It's exhausting to try and be someone you're not, you know, so let's just try and fix this. There's always a solution to everything. You know, and then the other side, I also have a huge passion for the victim, because the bully was a victim as well. I was a victim of bullying. Thank God I never turned into the bully myself. But you know, when you have very little self-esteem as a child, and it becomes worse and worse through kids targeting you, and you're already programmed not to speak about the pain that you're feeling, and it just becomes worse and worse, and eventually, and this is something that I have found is becoming worse in the schools, as our children are becoming more and more depressed in the level of not knowing how to cope, and the self-mutilation's picking up, and the suicidal thoughts are picking up, and suicide is picking up. And I'm purely stating what I've found over the last 7 years. I'm not here to say the parents are bad, the kids are bad, the teachers are bad, the schools are bad, but there's always a little bit of each of those that's the problem. And I think with the schools, there's the trying to cover their reputation and not dealing with stuff, you know, trying to sweep things under a carpet. And that just angers me, because if a school's willing to put a child's life aside to make themselves look reputable, they should be taken to court as far as I'm concerned. There should be justice in that sense. So a lot of schools are so worried about their reputation that, you know, they try and just make things go away softly, instead of standing up saying zero tolerance. I've got the greatest respect when I walk into a school and I can see this as a principle that's just zero tolerance. And the kids sense it. And there's a different type of respect. You can almost feel the respect walking into the school. And I think here the parents need to put a little bit more pressure on the children. On the teachers and on the schools. What is the school's code of conduct? I mean, there's so many parents that don't even know that. They don't even know what their school's code of conduct is. You are putting your kid into these people's trust. You're putting your kid's life into this trust. You should know these basics. But, you know, we had a little bit of a discussion here earlier that we find that South Africans are in such survival mode that the parents are hardly coping themselves. So, it's the two jobs trying to make the end of the month bills. And the kids know this. I think the biggest thing kids want is their parents' attention. And this is something most parents, unfortunately, are guilty of. I know, we have bad days, we're exhausted, you get home and not now, I don't have the time right now, please, just go to your room, whatever the case may be. But all these kids want is your attention. If a parent comes to me at a parent evening and say to me, how would I know, what are the signs, how would I know if my child's suicidal? I want to pick that parent up and shake them. Why would you come and ask me what the signs in your child is for suicide? You should know your child. You should come and tell me what the signs are. That just says to me you don't know your child. And I find it sounds really silly, but it's like we need to go back to basics. An hour in the evening at dinner table, leave your cell phones in the bedroom. Parents as well. Don't worry about your Facebook likes. Don't worry about who says what and comment on something now. Sit face to face with your child. What are you doing? What's happening in your life? Who are your friends? What are they like? What happened in class today? What made you feel great? What made you feel bad? These type of conversations is just not happening. And social media is a huge problem because, who picks up the phone to phone a friend and say happy birthday? It's quickly on Facebook, happy birthday, all done, sorted. There's no more face-to-face communication. So there's a good side of it. This is a great side of social media. But then there's the bad side. And I think the kids are desperate for their parents' attention. A couple of months ago, I was on tour in Port Elizabeth, and the SABC News was there to record the talk. And one of the camera crew came up to me afterwards and he said to me, what do you find the difference between one of our top private schools and one of our more struggling government schools? Are the kids, what is the difference between the kids? I said, well, you know what? The one thing that's not a difference is they all want attention. We can list 1,000 things that's different, but the one thing that they all want is attention. In the struggling schools, you'll find dad might have been killed, mom's running 3 jobs, kid stays with granny in the afternoon who's completely oblivious if the kid's even there or not. So there's no care, concern, feeling of a belonging, nothing. And then in the really high private school, the parent's so busy with his career, let me just buy you the latest laptop so you can get lost and I know you're going to be in your bedroom all night long. And that kid just wanted his dad or mom to say, what's happening in your life? Communicate with me. A while back, I was doing a workshop with a couple of kids, and this group of boys, I said to them, so what do you guys want to be when you grow up one day? Just trying to get kids to think ahead a little bit. Something that's not being done in school, goal setting, basics, self-awareness. Let's not get into the whole school syllabus and what the kids leave school without knowing who they are. But I asked these boys, what would you like to be one day when you grow up? And there was, I want to be an accountant, I want to be this. And this one little boy sat very quietly. And he didn't take part in the conversation. So I specifically asked him, what would you like to be when you grow up? And he said, I'd like to be a smartphone. And all the other boys started laughing, thinking, well, that's a big joke, like, oh, you must be the joker in the class. And I said to him, well, why? Because that's a question not a lot of people ask ever, is why? So I said to him, why do you want to be a smartphone? That's an interesting goal of wanting to become one day. He said, that's the only thing my parents give attention to. And it just really knocked me into a complete silence. I didn't know what to say to this poor kid because he was dead serious. I've had 7-year-old kids come to me to say that they're suicidal. Our kids are completely shattered. They've got nowhere to go. A lot of schools have school counselors. They don't feel comfortable speaking to the school counselors because you get labeled the moment you make an appointment and you walk into the office because it's, oh, so you've seen the counselor, so you're crazy, you're a nutcase. Then it's the 5 new labels that's been slapped onto this poor child. They have nowhere to speak and nowhere to be heard. And if your own parent doesn't even care to hear you, then the kids really are completely shattered and broken. A while back in Johannesburg, a young girl came to me after the talk, and she was so sad. She was literally heartbroken. This child could not get a word out. I just held her. She sobbed on my shoulder for a little while. And she said, I finally got her to talk, and I said, please tell me, why are you so sad? What is making you so upset today? And she said, I was about to hang myself in the school bathrooms today. And then you came along and told me that, you know, this is not the only thing in life that we need to look for. And you just kind of gave me a little bit of hope. And it didn't take rocket science for me to give this child a little message of hope. You know, I feel it's something that our teachers can do. If the parents are missing in action, and I'm not making it the teacher's responsibility, I think they've got so much other responsibilities on their plates already, but a teacher should be a little bit more sensitive. You know, we can't have a teacher from 30 years ago teach the same way today. Teachers 30 years ago taught ABC 1, 2, 3, and I think these days you have to be so psychologically and emotionally connected to the kid and see what is the problem, what's happening. And as I said, that question of why, you know, why are you acting the way that you are? Teachers are going, well, I can't discipline in the class, so, you know, what must I do? Think up a new way of teaching. You know, every day the kids walk into the class, they behave the same way because you behave the same way. But what if they walked into the class tomorrow morning and you're sitting on the table with your guitar singing? Do you think that's not going to get their attention, and they maybe even going to listen to you? And if you make the class a song, the crazier the better, they're all going to pass the exams well. Never mind actually listen to you and connect with you. But we've all given up hope. Everybody's just, you know, let's just survive, but something's got to give. And I don't think it's fair to expect that from our kids. They don't have the coping skills, they don't have the coping mechanisms, they don't know what to do, they don't know where to go. And this is why they give up. You know, I've often had parents say to me, please help me, you know, my kid's out of control, I don't know what to do with this child, they're constantly in trouble. And I have a conversation with a parent and I realize, but you're the one that's completely out of control, you're the one that's completely falling off the wagon. Maybe if you get a grip, your kid's going to see how you deal with life and they'll get a grip as well. So how sad is it that we've had come to this point where we need to work on our kids to fix the parents? The parents need to take responsibility. The sad thing is probably all the parents tuned in are the ones who are not the problem. You know, the ones that's the problem are the ones that say, I don't need this kind of stuff, this is nonsense, or whatever the case may be. But we have to take some kind, and I say we because I'm a parent myself, we have to take some kind of responsibility and say, I'm responsible for my child's well-being, not the schooling system. I'm not teaching them the syllabus, that's what I'm dropping them at school for. But I've got a responsibility as a parent, and you can't shift that responsibility onto the school or the teachers or anybody else. It's having to take responsibility, say this is my kid, I have to take responsibility for how they act, what they do. So I think in general, sadly, kids are completely shattered and broken, feeling totally unheard. It's amazing how after a 45-minute talk at a school, and I invite them to come and speak to me afterwards, how they would come and sit and talk to me, and they would say to me, I've never opened up to anybody like this, I've never told somebody this. And the only reason they're doing that is because I'm there saying, speak to me. It's not that complicated. Parents doesn't have to be psychologists or counselors to help their kids. Speak to me, talk to me. And again, we never ask why. A while back, a teacher said to me, it was a school that's in a very difficult gang area, and she said, I'm struggling with these kids in the class. This one specific boy, I feel like I can strangle him. He's never listening, he never finishes his schoolwork, his homework's never done. And I said to her, have you ever asked him why? And she said, yes, I have. I said, have you shouted it and allowed him to answer, or did you shout it and not allow? Have you calmly asked him, why is your homework never done? Please explain, I'd like to understand. And she said, no, I've never done it that way probably. So I said, please do that and let me know what he says. And she phoned me the next day after school and she was in tears and she said, I did what you said. I calmly after school quickly asked him, why is your homework never done? Why do I always have issues with you in the class? And this boy apparently started crying. And he said to her that he lives in an area where there's a lot of gangs. They don't have electricity at home because it's the last thing on the priority list of expenses. So he needs to go outside. By the time he gets home, go outside and sit under the street light, finish his homework. And then the gang starts coming down, and then he must go inside, otherwise he gets shot or grabbed by these gangsters. So his homework's never done. He gets into the house and there's nothing to sit by any light to finish his homework. And it's such a simple thing, but this teacher was wanting to kill this kid, strangle him, because he's not getting his work done. And a simple why, and really wanting to hear the answer, just changed everything. She made effort with this kid in the afternoon, straight after school, to sit down and say, let me help you, let's finish this quickly, so that when you go home, you don't even need to worry about it. So there's a solution to everything, but we're not going to know that unless we stop and just calmly ask, why? What's happening? So, what do we do about the fact that the kids are broken? Simple little things, like I said, sit at the table. Show interest in your kid's life. Share about yourself, Gosh, let me tell you what happened at my office today. This person went ballistic, this one, this happened and it was amazing. Oh gosh, I've got so much pressure with this job. Let your kids see that you're real and normal. There's no point in thinking this day and age to put up this face like, I'm a parent, force respect down their throats. Let your kids see you real. That's what they want to see. They want to see that their parents are normal. And what I'm experiencing is normal. Gosh, my parents also feel that way. So if you have a bad day and you walk into the house and the kid's saying to you, this and this and this, and they just bombard you with something, really just restrain yourself not to shout at them. Just say to them, gosh, I had a hectically bad day. Let me just go have a quick shower, make a cup of tea, and then let's sit down and just bounce off each other how our days were. For a kid like that to actually feel like they are needed by the parent as well, even if it's just to listen. We've completely alienated ourselves from our kids. There's no bonding, there's no connection anymore, and we need to reconnect on all levels. Doing something each weekend, saying from this weekend, every weekend for 2 hours we're going to do something that we've never done before. Even if it's go down to the beach to have an ice cream, or whether it's, I met someone the other day that lives in Bloberg and said, I've never been on the sand on the beach. I'm like, what? There's people across the country that would give their 2 front teeth to walk on this beach. Really? Do something that you've never done before. Do stuff that bonds you a little bit as a family, that the kids have that sense of belonging. Because it's without that sense of belonging that they end up searching into gangs, and that's all a gang is. It's a sense of belonging. It's a false sense of belonging. There's a family, they're going to make me feel welcome, they're going to treat me, they're going to spoil me, they're going to make me feel important. Don't allow your kid to go there. Force them into the family knit and connection. If your kid comes to you and says to you, I've got a problem with this teacher, don't just knock them off and say, you know what, teachers, whatever, next year you're with a different teacher, or don't worry about it, probably just a miserable day. Really listen to what your kid says about that teacher. Because unfortunately there's a lot of bullying from teachers to kids. There's a lot of bullying between teachers. I've heard principals speak to teachers that I thought, oh my word, and then the kids, you expect the kids not to speak badly towards each other, but this is how you speak to your teachers in front of a visitor. Wow. So I think just the general thing, the parents need to go back to, they are the examples. They are the ones that need to take the responsibility and say, my kid, and your kid can become a contagious, positive being in the school and just beam out that positivity. I've seen really violent bullies turn around into little bully policemen, literally, where they put up a roster and saying, this is now, I'm going to get my whole entourage, my gang, and we're going to put ourselves on this roster, and we're going to make sure that no one sits alone and no one gets bullied on the playground during breaks. A kid can turn around. They just need that little bit of a break. Again, there's always a solution. I'm this endless positive. I won't ever let anybody tell me there's not a solution. So I think my core thing is just for parents to take responsibility. If you're not sure how to do it, if you're not coping, get help yourself. You know, don't expect your kid to cope if you're not. I remember years ago when my children were born, they were here at Milnerton Mediclinic, and all these posters on the walls, your baby's fine, how are you? It was about baby blues, but years later I thought to myself, how apt was that poster? Because my kids aren't okay if I'm not okay. You know, and parents walk with these masks thinking, you know, I'll be the strong, I'm cool, everything's fine. And tell your kids if there's something happening in the family. Tell your kids if your boss is being tough on you. Tell them about the expenses. They need to, unfortunately, in this world, grow up learning about stuff. Tell them, you know what, we're going to have to cut back a little bit on this. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a bad thing. This is going to be a challenge. Let's see how we can cut back so much this month. Let the kids realize life is life. But don't try and pretend everything's fine and buy them what they ask, and meantime your stress levels go up, and eventually, you know, you falling off the wagon, I'm not coping. So parents, if you need help, go get help. There's a lot of places you can do that. I always say, a lot of people are against our police, but I've got a lot of respect for the police. I work with police in Melkbos quite often, and go to the police station. They've got endless lists of places that you can go to, people that you can go to, people that you can reach out to, churches, wherever it is. You know, your GP, finally, I'm not coping, what do I do, where do I go, what must I do? But don't sit there and think it's going to fix itself. And the same with the kids. We can't expect our kids to fix themselves. We need to help them, we need to guide them, and you are the guidance. So whatever you do, they follow. The whole monkey see, monkey do thing is a huge thing. I always say, you know, little babies do exactly what their older brothers and sisters and moms and dads do. If a kids come to me and they speak to me and they've got the filthiest mouth, I know what's happening at home. It's not, this kid didn't learn this language, you know, in the locker rooms for 2 minutes a week. This is their reality. So I think all I can leave you with is just, please allow your kids to speak, listen to them, believe them, and give them the benefit of the doubt always. I'm not saying if they say, you know what, my teacher treated me badly, don't storm in there and go and try and beat the teacher to a pulp. That's not the answer. But at least say to the kid, what was the problem? How do you feel about it? What is the issue? What would you like me to do? And then go and speak to the teacher, make an appointment, say, this is what's happening. I really would like to resolve this. I'm sure you would too. You know, if we just speak to each other in a calm manner, I think we'll get so much further instead of kicking and screaming. So listen to your kids. Believe them when they tell you something. Give them the benefit of the doubt and see how you can help. And if you don't know, ask someone who would be able to guide you. I don't know if you have any questions or... Yeah. Yes.
Me?
Yes, you.
Sorry, someone behind me. Lisa, what culpability do the schools need to take here? Because I think, as you've just explained, there are a lot of parents that are holding down jobs, struggling to get through the day, then they've got to deal with the evenings. And 90% of your kids' time is spent at school.
Yes.
Not 90, but a big part of the day,
yeah.
of their waking day is spent at school. So the teachers are actually getting to see our children a lot more than we as parents are.
Yes.
So there's got to be some culpability at school level. And they, I don't know, as you started off by saying, the schools are brushing a lot of this under the carpet.
Absolutely.
We arranged a breakfast against bullying earlier in the year. We sent the invite out to all the schools. We wanted them to send their principal, their prefects and the mediators. We had one school that sent their prefects. And this is so sad because this is something that is happening in every single school. Nobody must come and tell me that there's one school in our area that is without bullying, because I know that it's not true.
If I approach a school and a principal says to me, you know, we don't really have a problem in our school, I want to send in the army. Because, and I tell them that. I mean, unfortunately, I sometimes just speak too direct, but I don't regret being like that, because I think sometimes it needs to be heard. But I'll say to them, I'm going to send in the army, because either you are covering up something or you're completely oblivious to what's happening in your school. But there is no school in this world that has not got some form of bullying. And it's not the school is just a building. It is let's call it 1,000 kids maybe on average in schools these days. It's 1,000 kids coming to a building with 1,000 issues, and they're all expected to get along in that little space, and no one tells them how. But the school definitely has a huge responsibility in that sense. You know, I have the greatest respect, and there is a school in our area, and I'm not going to name schools. There's a brilliant school in our area where principal has zero tolerance for bullying. The moment he's aware of it, he calls in the kid, he finds out what the story is, he'll call in the other kid, he'll find out what the story is, he'll call in their parents and say, this is what we've had, and he'll resolve it quickly. But then you get the ones who, it's probably going to go away, you know, just don't come and speak to me about it. I'm retiring at the end of the year, and my reputation's pretty good for the school, and I don't really want to make my reputation kind of give it a knock right now, so just go away. Unacceptable. It's criminal as far as I'm concerned. You know, if I see someone in the streets being beaten up, I'm not going to walk away. I'm not going to pretend I don't see it. And it's almost what a principal does, knowing that there's a problem and is ignoring it. This is where the parents need to know their rights, as in how much they can push the school for a response. You should, as a parent, make an appointment with your principal and go and ask him, what is the statistics on bullying in your school? And how did you deal with it? And he should be able to answer you like that, if he's really on the ball and he knows exactly what's happening. But there's very little pressure from the parents onto the school. As I said, it's been 7 years across South Africa that I've been speaking at the schools. I cannot tell you in this specific area how I've struggled to get into schools. There's one or two that's open their doors on a regular basis, that's called me if there's a bullying incident. Liesl, please come help us resolve this. We'd like to get this resolved as quick as possible. I'm in there, we sort it out, and it's done and dusted. Everybody's happy. The rest of them are, we don't have a problem, or we send the kids out to a psychologist, or no, that's not the way that you resolve something within your school. In general, I find it's a self-protection from the principal side. And the principals might feel that I'm knocking them right now, and I'm not doing that, because there's a lot of really brilliant principals out there. And I've sensed, I walk into a school and I can sense who the principal is, what they're doing here, and if they've got control over the school or not. You immediately sense whether there's respect amongst the teachers, amongst the kids for teachers. You know, when I walk into a school, the kids stop and they're like, good morning, miss, and they don't even know who I am. You've got a brilliant principal. But if I walk into the school and the kids like walk past, they don't, it's like you're not even there, you almost have to wait for a turn just to cross the aisle. Where's your principal? You know, where are these basic values and those kind of things? And again, they'll probably say to me, well, you know, we've got so much on our plate, we're not here to teach those things. I think you do have a sense of responsibility in teaching those kind of things, because there's no point in sending your kids out of school knowing how to read and write, but they've got no clue who they are. And if another principal can teach values and respect and those things that you can feel it, sense it walking into the school, why can't you do the same? So I think a lot of them are just, you know, it's just a position. And it sounds really horrible, but I'm sorry, it's a fact. I've got into trouble a couple of times because I'm not someone who puts little pink ribbons on ulcers. I'm someone who comes and rips it open, let's fix it, let's heal it, let's get it fixed, you know. And a lot of teachers and principals might not like what I say, but a lot of them are completely missing the plot. And it's to the detriment of the kids. The kids are the ones that's suffering. The kids are the ones that don't know where to go, what to do, how to handle it. So if the principals are more open to the fact that, yes, we've got issues in our school, and we deal with it straight away.
On that note, if I may, tomorrow is the launch of the 16 days of activism against violence against women and children.
Sure.
So bullying doesn't only happen at schools, let's make that clear. It happens in the workplace, it happens in the home.
Bullying is abuse.
Exactly. And the principle is exactly the same, whether it's a child being bullied or an adult being bullied at work or at home.
Sure.
Is there a message going into this 16 days of activism tomorrow that you can give not only to school kids, but to moms, to women, to children that are being abused and are being bullied?
I think my main message would be it's time to stand up. You know, I think because we are in this space where people don't seem to fight for each other anymore, no one's going to fight for you. Stand up. You know, what you allow will continue. And you are the only one that can get to that point where you have to stand up and say no more. And it's the most empowering thing you can ever do for yourself. Whether you're a child, whether you're an adult, whether you're male, female, no matter who you are. It's the most self-empowering thing to say, I will no longer allow people to treat me in a disrespectful way. And it's a huge step. It takes great courage to say that, but it takes even greater courage to implement it. So if you're at that point where you've had enough, is to say, now I need to take the next step, I need help. Even if it is, what is my next step? You know, just teaching me and how do I get out of this. I myself tolerated a lot of abuse in my life, not even realizing that I was tolerating abuse. I was so surviving. And when I realized that it was a huge shift in my life, because it's suddenly standing up for myself and realizing I have a voice, I can speak, I can say no, I can say enough. And I'd rather be alone dealing with my stuff than being with people who abuse me. So everything starts with self-awareness. You need to first accept and recognize that, or first recognize that you're in an abusive situation. And then once you've recognized that I need to do something about it, I accept the fact, yes, I'm in an abusive situation. What am I going to do about this? What is the next step? And that's why I'm saying baby steps. You can't expect to walk out of a situation today and tomorrow your life's going to be all pure happiness and joy and bliss, and things are just going to be amazing. It's a long process depending on how long you've been in that abuse. A lot of people grow up in the abuse and they get programmed that that's their normal. So, when you try and explain to them that why you're still sitting in this situation, they don't understand why you have an issue with it. I'm here because this is what it is. Not realizing that they can step out of it, that this is actually not normal. So the unknown of stepping out of that and taking and having the courage is scary. But everybody has that power within them. And I think that's where my strength stuff is always, I always say, if I can pull an aeroplane, you can stand up for yourself. You can open your mouth and say no more, enough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Yes,
sorry,
question.
we had a question from the live feed.
Sure.
The one guy asked, what about when the children abuse the teachers, because they're limited by red tape? So how would you deal with something like that? Because it's also, they might be children, but they do also abuse the teachers and manipulate the teachers.
Of course. And
the teachers' hands are tied. They're not allowed to discipline the children anymore. So
it is a problem, and it's not like when we were kids, you got a good hiding and you kind of didn't do the same thing again. The parents aren't even allowed to speak to them in a certain way, never mind discipline them. So it is tough for the teachers nowadays, but I think if they are able to force the respect in a way of doing something different. It's the same as they being the victim in the situation and the kids being the bully or the abuser. It's like I say to the victims at school always, if you're going to respond the same way, the kid's going to, respond the same. So if you as a teacher are going to respond the same way, the kid's going to keep trying to manipulate and abuse you in the classroom. But unless you do something different, and I can't, each situation is different, I can't exactly say what would be the different thing. But for myself, if I was a teacher sitting in a classroom and the kids are shouting at me or, you know, being disrespectful, I was thinking, you know what, I don't need to tolerate this. And you got to report the kid. And this is why the principals need to be up to date on reports. How is the procedures? How is this being... It's not fair on the rest of the class for that one kid to disrupt the rest. There must be procedures in place by the school, by the code of conduct and all the... How are we going to deal with this kid? Because we're also not going to tolerate... We can't send school code of conduct. We're not allowing bullying in the school, but we're going to allow our teachers to be bullied. So if the teacher's being bullied, report it to the principal and say, this is what I'm tolerating from this kid in class. I can't give him a hiding, I can't give him punishment in any shape or form, but I am not as a teacher going to tolerate this. Stand up for yourself, report it, and insist that the principal does something about it. Whether he calls these parents in and say to the kid, what is the issue? Why are you being disruptive? What's happening at your home? Calling the parents, what's happening at your home? Because your kid's not really being very respectful in the classroom. Put it on the spot, zero tolerance, speak up and say, I demand that something gets done. But again, if the teachers are just going to go, oh well, I gave up because there's 40 disruptive kids in my class, you're going to have to do something different. And that is up to you, you know, because depending on what happens. I've seen, unfortunately, people send me horrible videos and things. I've seen videos where children physically attack teachers. You go to the police station, you lay a charge of assault. You know, if you don't do that, the kids are going to go, oh well, you know, if you get hit, you just take it. Be the example. Say to this kid, you know what, I'm not going to hit you back. I don't care what restraints you have to use. I'm not responding to this. You take that video footage, you go to the police station, you lay a charge against that child. But as long as you tolerate it, it will continue. And just be careful that you don't use an excuse not to stop it by saying, yes, but. I think it's something we all do. We're very quick because it takes a bit of effort. So we're very quick to say, yes, but you don't know what the situation in my classroom is, or you clearly don't know what these kids are up to. That's an excuse. You know, then don't come tell me you've got a problem if you're not willing to do anything about it. It's a step-by-step process, but the moment, if you've allowed it for a while, it's going to take even longer because you've allowed these kids to push your boundaries. You need to stake that, and it's going to be hard to keep it there. So I'm not sure if that answers the person at home, but yes. I do have a lot of respect for teachers because I think to be a teacher now compared to 40, 50 years ago, it's not the same thing. It's definitely not the same thing. And that's purely because us as parents aren't educating our kids properly, because if we did, if we put a healthy kid in the school, there wouldn't be all these issues. So it's a ripple effect of responsibilities that need to be taken. Any other questions? Nothing. Pleasure. Yeah, and there's hope. Just force a smile on your face every day and choose to see the bright side, you know. It becomes a fantastic habit.
It does. It's catchy too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for what you do in the community as well.
We try, but it's about creating awareness. It's about putting it out there, and as we said, not sweeping it under the rug. And I loved what you said. It's up to each and every one of us. If we're in a situation where there's any kind of bullying taking place, it's up to us as individuals to say, that's my boundary, you've pushed it. And it's something that came out at our breakfast. We had someone from SAPS at the breakfast, and he said, what people don't realize is that if somebody pushes you and hits you, that is assault.
Exactly.
You go to the police station and you lay a charge of assault. And for all the people that have bullied other people and nobody's gone and done that, they've helped create that bully. So if you've got to be the first person to stand up and do that, then do it.
You know, it's the same thing with a kid that says to me, you know, no one listens to me at the school. Have you been to the tea lady? Have you been to the janitor? Have you been to the gardener? How can you say nobody listens to you if you've not been to every single person? You're using it as an excuse not to persist. So, you know, that's we come up with excuses so quickly because it's a self-protection mechanism. It's just, yes, but I'm not the problem, you know. there's the problem. Poor me, victim. And unless you stop and you say, I will no longer be a victim, nothing's going to change. And that is why I am huge about, if someone talks to me and they're victim, I'm like, I really am struggling with this, I'm trying to be positive. Stop being a victim. Stop being a victim.
It's called
Pick
a pity party.
Exactly. You know, and again, it's the soul searching thing. Why am I being a victim? Why do I choose to be a victim? Why have I allowed myself to be a victim? Has it just been lack of knowledge? I didn't even realize I was one. What stops me now from getting up and doing that? And saying, you know, enough is enough. I refuse to now still be treated like a victim.
Yeah.
But it's very easy to just say, well, it's your fault, you know, and poor me. Sunny Yamarachata, what they call in pity party, you know, green cool drink and balloons and everything. But it's a choice. It's as simple as a choice.
Mm.
And like when the excuses come, well, if you still choose to be a victim's got no excuse. A victim says no matter what. And unfortunately, a lot of us need to get to the very, very, very bottom until we can't find any more excuses, and then we choose not to be the victim. Yes.
I've got something that I want to share with you.
Sure.
My son had a terrible year
Mm-hmm.
of being bullied since last year. I could say the whole year last year.
Mm-hmm.
And it came to a stage where, well, we've been to the school a couple of times, speaking to the principal and to the social worker and school psychologist and whatever, trying to get this stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like they didn't really attend to the problem.
Okay.
And it went so far that my son actually one day had enough and he had an outburst and he hit this one child.
Mm-hmm.
And he was actually the one that got into trouble,
Mm-hmm.
which was fine because he was not supposed to.
Sure,
hit
but he
this
was
child.
frustrated, got to the point of it.
Then we decided to take him to a psychologist outside of school,
Mm-hmm.
and he saw him once a month and got to a stage where he actually had to go and see the psychologist once a week.
Okay.
And you know, it's so hard because now he's getting frustrated at school, and when he get home in the afternoons, his two sisters gets bullied by him
Okay.
because he has to take out his frustration
On
somehow.
someone. Yeah.
And I think his comfort zone is his two sisters because they are there. He knows them. He knows how far, what he can do to them.
Mm-hmm.
And he bullies them into the ground, and it's come to the stage now where I think that even the psychologist that he's seeing it's not even working because it's just getting worse.
Okay. Look, sometimes, to the defense of psychologists and counselors, sometimes that specific person is just not the right person to help you. You know, it's like you go to your GP with a problem and he doesn't really seem to be fixing it, and then suddenly you go to a different doctor, someone recommended, and suddenly the problem's solved. So it might be a good thing for him, and ask him, how would you feel about maybe seeing someone else? Because it doesn't seem from the outside looking in like you really know how to channel your frustration.
Because I've been asking him, how did it go at the psychologist? What did he speak about?
Mm-hmm.
What did he do? What did he ask you? What did he tell you? What did he suggest to you that you can try?
Sure.
And the things he tells me is the same things that I'm trying to tell him as well. So
Okay.
It seems
if
to me
you
like
don't-
it's a waste
If you
of
feel
money
it's
and
not,
time.
if you feel that way, then you should either change or do something else,
Yeah.
because it's frustrating you as well. You know, not just financially, but also you just feel that this person's not the right person to help your child. It feels like he's getting worse rather than better.
It's come to a stage where my daughters is so scared of their brother because they don't know what mood he will be in when he gets home.
Yeah.
And they are really scared of him. They call me at work and say, Dad, when are you coming home?
Yeah. You see, and that's no way for them to live either.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult situation with sibling bullying because the kid can't get out.
Mm.
You know, it's in the house.
Exactly.
I'm a little bit biased when it comes to this because I'm a sports psychologist. I have seen how sport changed kids. And if you can find, I don't know if your son plays any sport, but if your son can find a sport that he can channel all this anger and frustration into, he could become a brilliant athlete. And it would really get the stuff out of his system. And he will find worth and value in himself through achieving his accomplishments and his goals. You know, he just keeps feeding that feeling of accomplishment. Is there a specific sport that he loves or plays or would like to play?
He doesn't.
Is he not a
He
sporty
doesn't do
person?
anything because he is scared that he doesn't even want to wear his sports clothes to school because he's scared that they